All right, let's jump right in. We're going to tackle a huge question today. How on earth do you lead when a technology like AI is literally rewriting the rulebook while you're playing the game? We're going to break down a new playbook for leadership in this AI era. Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to start by looking at how the CEO's job has already been changing, and then we'll see what happens when you toss AI into the mix. We'll get into the stuff a CEO just can't delegate, the tricky balancing act between risk and reward, and then wrap up with how you get the whole company moving in the right direction. Sound good? Let's do it. Okay, first things first. To really get a handle on the challenge AI brings, we've got to understand something huge. Leadership itself has already gone through a massive transformation. The old way of doing things, it's just not going to cut it anymore. Yeah, so you know that classic image of the imperial CEO, the all-knowing boss at the top of the pyramid who calls all the shots? Well, those days are pretty much over. Today, it's all about a different kind of leader. Someone who's less of a commander and more of a conductor, leading through collaboration. And trust me, this shift is absolutely essential for everything we're about to discuss. And let's get one thing straight. Calling these soft skills doesn't do them justice at all. The best leaders out there, they treat things like self-awareness and collaboration with the same discipline they'd apply to a balance sheet. Why? Because they know this is the real engine for speed and new ideas, especially when you're up against something as massive as AI. Right, so just as leaders are getting the hang of this new collaborative style, bam, along comes generative AI. And this isn't just another tech trend. We're talking about a disruption packed with mind-boggling complexity, incredible opportunity, and, yeah, some pretty serious risks. This is basically the final exam for the modern leader. So, the very first question, the big strategic one every CEO has to face is this: where do we even play? And this isn't just about how do we use AI. No, this is much bigger. It's about deciding what your company's role is going to be in this whole new world that AI is creating. You really have to figure out where you fit on this spectrum. Are you going to be a taker, basically using the amazing AI tools that are already available? Or maybe you're a maker, building your own special AI capabilities from the ground up to get an edge? Or are you a shaper, with the ambition to influence the entire industry? Where you land on this really dictates everything else. How much you invest, who you hire, the whole 9 yards. And this is where it gets real, right? We're moving beyond the initial hype. And leaders are asking some really tough, practical questions. Things like, okay, where's the actual business value here? How do we take this from a couple of neat pilot projects to something we use across the whole company? And maybe most importantly, how do we handle all the risks? Everything from data privacy to what this means for our people. You know, with all this complexity, it becomes super clear that some things just can't be passed down the chain of command. When it comes to AI, there are a few core responsibilities that the CEO has to own personally. These are the absolute non-negotiables. So Strovink points out 4 really critical roles here. First up, the CEO sets the pace. Are we going to be out in front leading, or are we going to be a smart, fast follower? Second, they've got to insist on real, tangible value, pushing everyone to think bigger than just a bunch of small projects and focus on transforming whole areas of the business. Third, they personally have to own the framework for managing risk. And last, but maybe most important of all, they have to set the example of being a learner, making it clear to everyone that it's totally okay not to have everything figured out from day one. All right, so all of this leads to what is maybe the central challenge of leading in the AI era. It's this constant balancing act. You've got all these competing priorities, it's high stakes, nobody knows exactly what's next, and this is where the CEO's most important job comes in. What we're calling the art of calibration. Think of it this way. A massive part of the CEO's job now is to be the chief calibration officer for the whole company. What does that mean? It means they're the one constantly adjusting the dials, navigating those tricky trade-offs, opportunity versus risk, speed versus safety, investing big versus all the uncertainty. That's calibration. And to make this crystal clear, let's look at a powerful real-world example of this kind of high-stakes calibration in action, the story of Moderna and the COVID-19 vaccine. I mean, the scale of the challenge here was just staggering. They set a goal to produce 1 billion, that's billion with a B, doses of a brand new kind of vaccine in record time. Almost everyone thought it was completely impossible. So get this, when the head of manufacturing told the CEO, Stefan Bancel, that it just couldn't be done, Bancel's response changed everything. He didn't push back or argue. He just reframed the entire problem. He asked, What do you need for us to be able to do that? And with that one question, he turned an impossible wall into a puzzle that could be solved. And that, right there, is the big lesson. It's that powerful combination. You have a bold, non-negotiable goal, but you combine it with total empowerment and trust in your team to figure out the how. That is calibration in action, folks. Now, this idea isn't just for the CEO, right? This mindset, this blend of a clear goal and deep trust, can't just live in the C-suite. If you really want an AI transformation to work, this way of thinking has to flow down through every single level of the company. So what does that actually look like? Well, the board of directors needs to keep the ambition high, making sure the focus stays on those big, game-changing domains. Your tech leaders, they're the translators, making sure every bit of technology is directly tied to the company's main strategy. And then, and this is so important, your middle managers are on the front lines. They're the ones who have to take these big ideas and make them work in the real world, day in and day out. So really, it all boils down to this one question that every leader should be asking themselves. Because at the end of the day, leading in the AI era isn't about knowing everything. It's about your ability to constantly learn, to adapt on the fly, and to calibrate. That, right there, is the new playbook.